And all this conditioning takes away from who it is that we're born in essence to be.
Zuri Vankevich helps men reconnect with who they were before the world told them who to be.
I feel like I got disconnected from that young, joyful, energetic kid, playful, and I started getting succumbed by societal things like I have to show up this way, I can't express this, and I regret it, dude. I had a chance to do public speaking, to talk about whatever it is I want to talk about, whatever's important to me, and I let it slip. And I didn't like the way that felt.
So what happens when you finally stop running from who you really are?
I did this exercise 2 years ago where I did a daily active play. And this is when I was building my solar business, and this is when I was stressed all the time. And I incorporated this daily active play where I did things that made me come alive when I was younger. It's so interesting to see how life brought me full circle and how much more connected I am to the youngest version of myself. But it's interesting to see how much more enjoyable life is when I come with this like kid-like curiosity, but with the experience and wisdom of a man.
This is a conversation about coming home to yourself. Please welcome Zuri Vankevich.
Zuri, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I really love when we first met. It was like, a couple of years ago. I met Ian. You're transitioning between like a sales business environment, more into coaching, masculinity. Love what you're talking about then, and now what you continue to talk about now, and moving into identity shifting, and I think becoming a really healthy, functional man, which we need so much more of this demonstration in the world for the guys, ourselves, the boys to come. I truly think this is part of the savior of humanity. As you've navigated this path, what has been your favorite part so far in coming back to these really essential points that we're going to be opening up to today?
Yeah, first off, thank you so much, Dan, for having me, man. I completely agree that there is an epidemic of lack of masculinity. And I think it's, we could call it propaganda. We could call it cultural shifts. We could call it a bunch of things. Really, I think there's just a lack of positive role models. And I'm not sitting here trying to be a role model. Like, I'm a flawed human being, just like everybody else. However, I have had a pretty incredible journey with, where I got to being here today, in Bali, here with you, living the life that I lead today with purpose, meaning, and impact. So I do completely agree that it is a huge issue. And I feel very fortunate to have got introduced to like men's work at a young age, surrounded by guys who were 2 or 3 times my age. I think I was 20 years old, and there was a couple of guys in their late 50s. And it's really interesting being able to go through life with, I wouldn't even call them mentors, but like brothers, like having somebody who's 20 years older than you, 30 years older than you, that you're kind of opening up a little bit about your experience of life, and sometimes asking for feedback and sometimes just trying to share, and creating a container, which I had 2 amazing leaders in my group that were maybe like 10 years older than me, and they kind of felt like big brothers that I never had. And it was really cool to be able to get feedback from people who have already been on their journey of life and pouring into you, and sometimes just supporting you, whether that's with words or literally just with space, and letting me know that they were there. So I think everybody kind of goes through their own struggles and trials, as they're a teenager or whatever, mental health and all this stuff. What I realized in my early 20s is how important it is to not go through that alone. The lone wolf thing, like I still kind of venture off and do that. I think there's a time and place for going on your own journey and not seeking counsel in becoming a man. And I've kind of been on that train the last couple of years. But it is really important, as you start on the journey to know that you can trust other guys, to know that you can trust people. And that's just brought such fruits of whatever like labor I put into this men's work community. And it's powerful, man. It really is.
I love that. I love that you said that you discovered this in your early 20s. I look at people like this and go, wow, I didn't discover any kind of form of personal development until, I don't know, 31. And
Wow.
so when I hear of people going in, and some of my clients now, like 22, 23, and they're coming in, they're already making good amount of money. And now they're like, what am I going to be doing with this money, especially through sales, which it's easy to go and make 10, 20, 30, 50 grand a month. And then going at 23, it just blows my mind to go.
Right.
And these guys are so humble to go, wow, it's not going to, it's not going to change my life. Absolutely could. But they're talking about how is it going to really impact their lives and coming back to themselves and discovering this men's work and personal development in this really humbling way. And I look at guys like yourself that discovered this at such a young age, and the wisdom that you can gain between 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, you've already got like so many years on the board of discovering all of this that I think the greater impact that you can make. And I really love that you come back to that. Before we jump in, I would love to hear what whether it's a definition, whether it's criteria, whether it's your perspective of what masculinity really means, healthy, functional masculinity means in today's age. Because I think it's a really incredible talking point. It's got so many different views and opinions on it. Some of them are better than others, I think. I'm not sure whether there's right and wrong. There's probably closer and further from what is objective truth. But from your perspective, what is it that you're kind of navigating towards to going, yeah, this is really healthy, positive, functional masculinity and being the demonstration that we can be as men?
I think I could give you some ideas on what it's not, because I've been through that first, so I can speak on that. A high degree of like reactivity, if especially like in context of like relationships and work and dating, getting triggered is not like the most masculine trait. And I used to have more triggers when I was a teenager, so certain things would like upset me. That now, I was just having a conversation with a buddy about this specifically, is like, it takes a lot more now for me to get triggered, and I'm not trigger proof, whatever like that means, but being less reactive and just more objective. What else is not masculinity? I feel like stifling things down. This is where I got to be careful, because I believe in stoicism. I think that is traditionally a more masculine trait. However, with social media and these the negative aspects of the red pill movement, I think that gets carried away where guys like feel like they can't have feelings, which I think like I've embodied a lot of my emotions with the work that I've done. That has allowed me to be more expressive. It's allowed me to be more in tune emotionally with in things like relationships. So it's not about stifling down emotion. It's about regulating yourself and taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others first. It's like putting on the oxygen mask before helping your neighbor type of thing. A big thing with masculinity is like leadership as well. And in high school, I used to want to hide, like I wanted to be in the background. I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I thought leadership was, even into my early 20s, I did not want to be a leader, whatever that meant, because sometimes that can connotate responsibility. I was really enjoying responsibility-free life, and I was like shying away from that. But a lot of the time, and I like what Jordan Peterson talks about with this stuff, is self-leadership. Like if you don't want to be a leader for a country or an organization, just start with leading yourself, If that's making your bed, if that's waking up when you say you're going to wake up, if it's going to the gym when you say you're going to do that, like a lot of confidence comes from like keeping those promises to yourself. And I think confidence is a core part of like being a man. So there's a little blend of some things that aren't and maybe some traits that are, from my POV.
I really love these. I think that while they're probably three of some of the more core fundamental principles of masculinity, I think we could look at them and go, well, they're pretty basic, but they're not to be understated. I like how you framed the stoicism and the view of stoicism. I think society gets it mixed up a little bit with thinking being stoic means not feeling your emotions, which if we're not feeling our emotions, we're suppressing, repressing, pushing away emotions. They don't go away. Like emotions are well, they're energy and motion. They're going to come out, right? In
Facts.
one way or another, which then comes out as reactivity, as you're mentioning it. I think, and much like yourself, stoicism becomes going, well, what if we are able to feel our emotions, process our emotions, express our emotions in a healthy, functional way, not just dumping our emotional baggage onto people in this reactive way or being emotionally immature, but doing it in a way around people that are there to do it, whether it's in a brotherhood or whether it's with a therapist or a counselor or, whoever it is that's an immature way to do it, so that then we can handle our triggers. Then you can go out into the world, and when you're coming up against a challenge or the adversity or whatever, you can be more like, I'm stable, I'm strong, I'm
Facts.
emotionally regulated. I have a healthy relationship with my nervous system. So it looks like from the outside, I don't have any emotions, but it's more that I'm just able to handle my shit. And I think that's stoicism, right? You can go into the face of danger and the face of challenge. If you think about, the old days of war, you go in there and you look fearless. It's not that you're fearless. It's you've got a good relationship with your emotions because you've allowed them to be there. You built a relationship with them, right?
That's bars. 100%. That's very much in alignment with how I'm seeing this as well. It's not like the regulating, it's taking care of yourself. It's that self-leadership and knowing that I got me.
Yeah.
Before, like when I was younger, I didn't feel like anybody got me, and that's probably not true. Everything negative about my life came from me suppressing. Dude, it's crazy to think about. And then once I started, especially in this closed container with a bunch of men and this men's group, is like start opening up a little bit. Which looking back, I was just sharing like very like not deep stuff, but just learning to become a more open person and not just stifling things down.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, dude, like, first off, everybody's going through the same shit. Like everybody has very similar problems as a dude. And I'm sure women experience the same thing where a lot of our problems are very, very similar. And then once you start hearing this, you start seeing patterns. And then I thought I was so unique with all like the problems that I had, but it's called being a teenager. It's called being a young individual, like navigating life. And then there's like this weird validation that comes from, I'm not a special victim in life. Like a lot of people are going through this same thing. And then that switches the thought process. Like, okay, cool. What am I going to do about it? And then when you come from that more grounded, stoic, less reactive space, because you've already kind of like self-regulated and let that come as may, that's when you can start tapping into more powerful states of being. And I will tell you, it's so much more fun navigating life from a powerful state of being versus a weaker, more timid, fearful state of being, because it's hard to be like inspired from that state. And I've experienced both now. It's cool.
It's cool to see that contrast for sure. I think, it's called being a teenager. I think it's called being a human being. We're going through this. I love how you say that. It's almost like this, I am special with my problems. And it's not to say, dude, you're not special. Everyone is special for sure, but you're not special with your problems when you're living a human experience. And okay, sure, the story might be a little bit different, the context might be a little bit different, but the fundamental issues and the challenges are all much the same. And when we come together and we explore them and you share them, it might be the most scary, vulnerable shit you could ever share with someone, and they go, oh, dude, thank you so much. I was feeling the same way. And suddenly you've got that bond and you've got this connection. I think this is the really cool thing about brotherhood. We can replicate that, though, and we can do that. It's not always appropriate to do it with women. And I think this is something that is really important to talk about, which maybe we can tap into as well.
Let's get in, baby. Let's go.
We can get into that. It's not always important to do it with women, but I think it is important for men to speak their truth and have the courage to speak the truth. And as you say, once we free ourselves of that emotional reactivity, have a great relationship with our nervous system, and start realizing, oh, well, what am I going to do about it? Bringing responsibility to ourselves and that personal, that self-leadership. Huge, massive, like masculine characteristic trait. People talk about like leadership. You mentioned it, leadership being a masculine trait. I think it's more of an outcome as a result of doing the inner work. We can go and take lead. It's hard to lead if you don't have certainty in yourself. It's hard to lead if you're emotionally dysregulated and being triggered. It's hard to lead with having any kind of uncertainty, emotional dysregulation, being fearful of the world, not knowing that you can handle it, and being able to overcome all of those things is an internal job, right?
For sure.
Internal work.
Yeah, it is. It is more of like a cause and effect situation. Yes, I really like how you put that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we dive into where was the? You say you've been doing this work for a number of years now. How old are you now?
29, baby.
29. So
Yeah.
you've been on this journey for a little while. Was there like a certain or a specific turning point where you're like, I really got to start? And I know that you humbly said, I don't want to be, what was it, the model of the demonstration or the model or the role model per se. I think in a lot of ways that we don't really have a choice. there are people that are going to be watching and hearing and noticing, observing your moves. They'll have admiration, and of course everyone's got the people that are trying to bring them down and the haters, and the more impact that you make, that comes as well. But I think we're all models of demonstration in one way, shape, form or another. It becomes our responsibility to go, well, how is it that I can be the best model of demonstration that I can be, especially if you're going to be going into fatherhood or building communities or whatever it is. You either choose to be a dysfunctional leader or someone that's like modeling hopefully excellence.
Yeah, it is a choice too.
It is a choice.
Yeah. I like that.
Was there a turning point for you that you started realizing, okay, well, maybe I'll start sharing some of the knowledge that I've gained, some of the stories that I've gone through, some of the upsets of the past, and start being more vulnerable about it? Because I do think it starts with vulnerability.
Absolutely, man. I feel like the journey for me is like, the way I see it is there's seasons of being a student and then there's seasons of being a teacher. And I think one of the mistakes I made is waiting to be like this super wise, like future pacing individual that is full of wisdom and doesn't get anything wrong to be able to start sharing that with people. And I loved sharing things that I was learning at a young age, like even in my early 20s. But there was this resistance or lack of self-belief to start sharing that with people. And so like when I realized that nobody ever has everything figured out.
Ever.
Yeah, but the more experience that you gain and the more wisdom that you gain through those failures, ups and downs, you can start speaking from your authentic experience. But typically, you're always one step ahead of somebody out there, or probably a lot of people, and vice versa. There's many people that are like a few steps ahead than you. So I think sharing, and I've always loved, like if I learn some new insight, I guess that's one thing I have always had a more abundance mindset on, is like I'd love to see the people around me and anybody really that I can benefit from experience, offer that to people. And the balance there is just making sure it's not unsolicited. Like people who share things with you don't always need fixing, you can offer, hey, would you be open to some feedback? And there's ways that you can do that, because a lot of the times I know I could help people but they got to be in a state of looking for help, not that I'm going to try and like fix them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's always seasons, right? Like the season of being a student and a teacher, and then you can be both, right? Like things you're actively learning, you can document that, right? You can journal it. You could create a vlog. You could just share insights with social media or just family. I love sharing new things with my family of things that I'm learning. I love sharing it with new friends. That's why they're my friends. We can talk about cool ideas,
Yeah, I love the saying. I think, not sure if it was Robin Sharma who said it first, but I heard it from him. It was like, the teacher learns the most. And that's something that I've certainly modeled along a lot of in my journey. When I'm learning something new for the first time, sharing it with someone else helps me reinforce the learning behind it.
Facts.
And start seeing the gaps in my thinking or my approach, especially if somebody challenges it or questions it or go tell me more about this. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't learn that part yet. So I can go away, take responsibility and go, that's a really good question. Or let's figure it out together and have this conversation. I think having teaching something and having a conversation around something is way more effective for learning than just going and asking ChatGPT.
Yes.
And sure, you could go on Google or ask ChatGPT on some things, that you obviously neither of you got the knowledge on to plug the gaps. But I think it's a really great, it's a really great tool for learning.
You know what? Just sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I just want to say something on that. Is like the different experiences of learning. Like experiential learning for me is like the biggest way I'm going to interpret information and make it mine and actually like embody it. Because I'm looking back in high school and college, and I got through okay. Like I wasn't an A-level student. I wasn't like barely passing, although maybe some of my high school classes I was barely passing. But a lot of those things that came like when I was 19 or 20 to build my own online businesses to be able to travel the world, I realized how much more I was learning by, one, I was paying on a credit card with money that I barely had for course and education versus taking out like a student loan to be able to fund a traditional education. By actually doing the stuff versus studying for the stuff I was already doing, like in university, I noticed that I was just getting way better. I was embodying the knowledge I was learning a lot more and actually like coming to my own realizations and failures versus just getting like a exam score back on a university exam. So I got through that, but how much did I really retain in university? And how much am I using from that today versus the stuff that I went out and invested in myself and my like with mentors, this men's work or whatever? It's more mine. Like I don't know. I feel like I built this brick by brick, if that makes sense.
Sure.
There's different ways of learning, and like reading from even listening to audiobooks, sometimes that can just be entertainment for me. But when I'm learning something that I'm actively working on and I'm using it in my day to day and I'm practicing it, like you're saying, and I'm failing with it, or somebody says, well, what does that mean exactly? I'm like, I got to go back to the drawing board and wrestle with that idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's different ways of learning, and it's important to see like which one works for you. Because there's no time like the present, but I wish I learned some of that stuff when I was younger. Like, which way am I going to learn the most effectively?
Yeah.
It's not a curriculum in school.
If you're finding value in this story, I'd love to invite you to hit the subscribe button below. You'll be the first to receive content just like this, honest, relevant, and here to support you on your journey. With every like and every follow, together we're succeeding in our mission and reconnecting the world with what matters most. And that is, of course, each other. Thank you so much.
I think we're seeing that shift happen way more. The traditional ways of learning is all about memorization.
Right.
And theory, memorizing the theory, and then hoping that it's going to be helpful at some stage in your life, down in the distant future, but usually it's not. By the time we get
Definitely
there,
not.
we've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Versus what you're sharing is going, well, what about learning things that are relevant for us right now to then go and build the next block of whatever it is, the next block of ourselves, the next block of the business, next block of the skill that you need to acquire and do the thing and become the person that you need to become. I think it is way more effective, and I don't know whether for every single person, every single field, I don't know, this is not a binary thing. I think it's just way more effective in the sense, and what we're seeing is going back to like the guys in their 20s. Like I met a 19-year-old guy that's got a functional business and he's turning over tens of thousands of dollars a month at 19.
Yeah. Crazy.
And he didn't go to university to do that. He was just like, I want a business. I'm going to learn what I need to learn to create what it is that I want to create, versus going to university with all this, memorization and shit that doesn't really matter.
So true.
We've changed a lot. And I don't know whether that's advice for anyone. If there is anyone that's super young listening to this right now going, oh, well, should I go to university or not? That's always one of these questions, right? But at least the way that I coach and the students of, and I don't really like to call my clients students. I think they're the students of life. They're not the students of me. I'll just say, well, what is it that's most important for you right now? Where is it that you're going? What are the outcomes that you want? Okay, every outcome in life has a strategy to get there. Why don't we go and be like the detective to go and find out what is the strategy for this outcome that I want? A lot of people are just skipping that and they're trying to model things that are just never going to get them to the areas that they want.
True. Because it's not their path, like I think a lot of paths are handed to us. And I think you're right. There is like an awakening or like a new age of like learning and people like waking up, and young kids, man. I went on this motorcycle trip to Vietnam, and there was like kids that were backpacking, and they're doing this 3 or 4 day motorcycle trip with us. And I'm like having these conversations with these young like guys in their early 20s, and they are smart, dude. They're like emotionally in tune, and it's cool to see how much they knew at their age. Now I think they're still navigating in their own lives and struggling with certain things that I was at that age too, but like they know what's going on. Like I feel like there's like this new wave of people in their early 20s that are like coming in. They're just like more aware of what's going on, at things that I wasn't really present to back then, even with all the experience that I did have. I just want to share that real quick, that I think the model is changing. And like for things like my parents, is like the most important thing was university. Go to school, you know, get a good job, you know, work hard until you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s. You get the watch or whatever, and then you enjoy the fruits of your labor. And then there's this new wave of people that are like, you know what? That worked for a period of time, but there's this thing called the internet and reach and impact that you can have that you just couldn't have. Like you can start your own podcast. Like this is an amazing setup and studio that you have built, right? But it doesn't even need to do this. There's kids that are streaming, right? And they're, you know, getting their message out from an iPhone. And there's a new model where people are like having more information and more access to opportunities to be able to forge their own path. But it's also maybe a little bit more overwhelming because there's so many options. Like what's the vehicle that I'm going to use to get, like when I wanted to travel the world, I tried so many things that failed. Amazon FBA, paid $1,000 or $1,500 for a course, paid $4K for a drop shipping course, high ticket drop shipping, affiliate marketing, all these different things that just weren't my model. Like it just wasn't for me. The things that I was learning just weren't registering, and I just wasn't like that interested. And I think if you're going to build a business, you have to be pretty interested into it. And that's something that I learned in my later 20s. Instead of just like these things like, how do I make money? It's like, okay, cool. It's like, you can get a job, but how do you get a job that you actually feel like you're contributing to and interested in versus just a paycheck? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Off the back of that, one of the things that I'm noticing, I'm not quite, I haven't dialed this in totally, so just hang with me on this, is I think that every generation has its own challenge. Right? If you look back to our grandparents' generation, or maybe their grandparents, you know, like coming out of the Great Depression, having a job just to put money on the table was the most important thing. Like that was the biggest challenge. And so then the next generation that came, they're like, so they then placed onto their children, or the next generation inherited this idea of, I need to have a really great education so I can get money to put food on the table. And then the next generation, it was evolved a little bit more. Like I think our parents' generation, they had their own challenges. You know, you weren't really making really great income until you're later in life. Now we're in the generation, it's almost like half a generation below me. So I'm coming up 38 now. Don't feel like it.
Don't look like it either, buddy.
Thank you, man. Whoop is keeping me.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to Whoop. It's keeping
You're
me young.
like 7 years younger than you actually are, your biological age. That's impressive, man.
My partner, Louisa, she's 8 years younger than me, and she's always like, if you want a young wifey, you got to stay young. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to keep staying. I'm trying to get to negative 10 years younger than my biological age.
Let's go, baby.
So got a few things that I'm going to knock off. But this next generation, that's like half a generation below me, it's like money is not the problem anymore. And like we can make money doing anything. And so like, you know, all these things that you went through, and like, all of those would be money making schemes if you want. They could be, they're valid ways of making income and making a really great living. And you know, people talk about scams. I don't think any of them are scams. I think the challenge, and maybe reflect on yourself whether you're part of this, but certainly for, you know, in the younger 20s, is we've moved from this ambition driven world, which is like, you know, go and get the money so you can put the shelter over your head, get the car, be impressive. And I mean be impressive like as in have some kind of status, so then you can attract a mate. You know, it's part of our human biology. We need that. And, you know, this is all ambition so you can go and procreate. But we've elevated, we've moved from that. None of that, that's not enough anymore, because making money and getting status and all these things, it's kind of like, it's not challenging anymore. We've hacked our way through it. We know marketing, we know all the pickup lines, we know how to take care of all the actions to get the results that we want. And sure, somebody can argue, oh fuck, Dan, I don't know how to do this. This is really hard. But as a culture, as a humanity, I think we're moving into this meaning driven life. Because like, how many people are walking around going, well, yeah, I could make that money. I could sell the high ticket FBA or drop shipping and make the money, but I can't make it work because I don't give a fuck. It doesn't give me any kind of meaning or any purpose. Or like, yeah, I'm making my 50 grand a month, but I feel empty or dead inside. I don't feel connected. Or, you know, like I'm successful in everything that I'm doing. I've arrived, but I don't have the friends or the relationships. I'm feeling unfulfilled. You know, we're talking about fulfillment. We're talking about meaning. We're talking about purpose. We're talking about connection. We're talking all these things. And isn't that a meaning-driven life? And no other generation has ever had this problem before.
So interesting. I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, go.
I really like the way you broke that down. So I think the the thing here is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The problems that our grandparents had were much more pressing in terms of state of survival than what we are at today. You know, we were talking about universal basic income, like all these terms that, like, you know, social security, like all these safety nets that society has. And even though most people right now are not thriving, especially like in the US and Canada, it seems like the more that I travel, it's like a global thing. Like there's a lot of struggling with still like survival and people just still in that state. But the problems that we're facing, you know, cheap entertainment, you know, things like Netflix, all these things that are like luxuries that keep people comfortable. Like, even though you're struggling, like they have all these coping mechanisms that just weren't available. And think about like the entertainment that somebody making minimum wage of like a Netflix subscription where they have all of these forms of entertainment. You know, you can choose the genre, you can have all these things. That is more than a king 300-400 years ago would have, like with the gesture that would come in. That would be somebody's full-time job, is to keep a king entertained.
I was going to say, sorry to interject. I really wanted to say, you know, so many people are not thriving. I would argue on that exact point that, well, we're thriving more than ever before. You know, just 100 years ago, people were struggling to, you know, making a couple of dollars a day just to put food on the table.
Right.
Most of the world's living in poverty and famine. You know, like you got a very small minority that's actually got an income to live like kings. Now, across the board, across the United States, like across most of the countries, you know, anyone that's listening to this is thriving from that standard. We're living better than the royalty from just 100 years ago, but our perspective shifted.
Yes,
I think that is the part of the problem.
Yeah, and the point that I'm kind of getting to with this whole analogy is people are still depressed and people are still like struggling to find meaning in all these things. And I think all these cheap forms of entertainment to kind of numb through life, when you have these luxuries, when you have these comforts, even they don't have to be super extravagant. When you have them without purpose, significance, or meaning in your life, it can be a form of hell or like purgatory.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is having like your needs met, but not feeling like you're thriving and stuck in that comfort zone without pushing your edge or pushing your potential and feeling like you're growing and just kind of stagnating. That's when I find my mental space is not the best. But when I'm pushing, like I don't watch TV these days. Whereas before that was a big part of my life. I loved watching shows and just like that kind of form of entertainment. But it's because I now have things going on that are more exciting to me than other stories or other people's like fictional narratives. So I think comfort without purpose is actually like very, very harmful, because that's why you hear about these young guys and even older people who work their whole lives and they're in their 40s or 50s and they made the millions of dollars. They got the car, they got the supermodel wife, but their whole significance was based around producing and generating income. But they're just so whack and so out of alignment because they said no to like what their true desires were and what their heart was saying. That's why these quarter life or midlife crises happen, is they're just so disconnected from themselves that when they actually get all the things that they thought they wanted or society told them that they wanted, they still talk about feeling empty. They still talk about feeling like this void, right? And I think that's just because they lost themselves on the path. Their priorities were not in alignment.
It brings up the conversation around the addiction to cheap dopamine. I think dopamine is the most addictive drug there is.
It's so good too. It's a good drug of choice, man.
It's so good. Like,
yeah.
And it's not like you're going around like injecting dopamine or like smoking up some dopamine.
Right? We're not doing that, right? Yeah. No.
Not yet.
I'm not. Yeah.
But in a way, since we self-produce it, we kind of are with every swipe on some dating app. So like every way that we can go out and achieve that production of dopamine, or like scrolling on Facebook or Tinder or whatever it is, TikTok, that gives us that cheap hit of dopamine. Like, that feels good. And it links it right back to that discomfort. I mean, the comfort trap is cheap dopamine. The way that we can, our brain, we tricked our brain into producing it without having to work for it.
Yeah.
And so then that just keeps fueling this comfort versus, you know, you came and spoke at Give It All. Well, you came and attended Give It All, and then suddenly you're on stage speaking with 2 minutes to prepare. and you're up there. But when you walked off stage, how fucking good did that feel?
That was cool, man. That was a good form of dopamine. I'll tell you
See,
that.
and
I've
that's
had
not-
bad dopamine, good dopamine, and that was some good quality, top shelf dopamine, baby.
Top shelf.
Yeah.
See, that's not cheap. That's
Yeah.
well-earned dopamine. To put your hand up and go, who wants to speak? You know, and for context to the audience, you know, we had 70 people in the room that night, and ask who wants to speak. You put your hand up between 3 other people. You got selected. You're on stage, and now you're doing a 5-minute keynote. I'm going, fuck, most people are terrified of speaking on stage. Most people never put their hand up to that. Even just putting your hand up and going, all right, I'm going to do a 20-second elevator pitch on something that I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'll just talk about it in front of 70 people. Already that's a hit, right? And then get selected and be on stage, and the recording's out on YouTube now for anyone that wants to see it as well. Maybe I'll drop the link.
I will say, dude, like it's kind of what we were talking about earlier about experiencing the fear, but not succumbing to it. Like I was nervous. Like I put my hand up because I knew if I thought about it too long, like I would put the hand back down. I wouldn't do it, and there would be this analysis paralysis. So it's interesting because I'm trying to do these kind of opportunities to throw myself in the fire.
Yeah.
And I just noticed, one, how alive I feel when I put myself in like risky, especially social situations, like even public speaking, man. Like I really like public speaking, but it's not like I don't get the jitters. It's not like my nervous system wasn't activated, or I'm getting nervous, or like that fear of looking dumb. All those things were prevalent. I'm like, and that's okay.
It should.
Like I love myself enough. If I look stupid in front of these 70 people, it's gonna be a story. It's gonna be funny. But if I know if I share authentically, like with what my intention was, I tried to share from the heart. It's a win either way.
Yeah.
I'm practicing self-expression,
That's
and
right.
when I threw myself in there, the coolest part about that was you gave me the opportunity to speak in Colombia like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, whenever that was, and you were throwing on those epic events. It's crazy to see how far they came. There's like 5 times as many people now.
Yeah, thank you, man.
But it's really cool because you gave me the opportunity and I slept on it. I did not take you up on it. The window closed. You moved back to Bulgaria, or maybe you came to Bali right after that. And I regret it, dude. Like I'm like, I had a chance to do public speaking, to talk about whatever it is I want to talk about, whatever's important to me, and I let it slip. And I didn't like the way that felt. And then when you had the wildcard speaker opportunity, I'm like, this is it. I'm going to redeem myself, or at least I'm going to try and redeem myself.
Yeah.
And I got selected then, and that was really cool because it just goes to show me, and I get validated on this belief that just because one door closes doesn't mean that door is closed for life. It's just you got to open up a different door, and life will present those opportunities as long as you're open to them, which I was. And so that was really cool, man. I appreciated you giving me the platform to be able to share and redeem myself.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was a great talk. I will drop the link in the show notes there, because it was a great talk, especially off the cuff, and what you shared, and coming in vulnerably and sharing everything that it was about brotherhood, and sharing your message. I really like that you speak about stepping into the fire. That's one of the big callings. So I work with men. I do men's coaching, especially around emotional connection and vulnerability, connecting with ourselves so we can connect with others. And I quite openly say, I'm not going to coach you. I'm not going to fix you. I'm not going to risk you. I'm not going to fucking support you. I'm going to initiate the deep connection within yourself, and drag you, if you're open to it. I'll pull you into the fire. I'm not going to drag you. You got to kind of step willingly, but I'm going to pull you into the fire. And so then transformation happens inevitably. Like change is going to happen because you're standing there in the fire, and we're doing this together. I'll lead you into that space. Let's do that. And one, it's really powerful. It's amazing the guys that are like lighting up to it. Not all guys, though. Not all guys are ready for this work, because it takes that kind of level of courage, what you're talking about, to go, I'm going to go and step into the fire and just see what happens. That's what vulnerability is.
You got to be ready to get burnt, baby. You got to be ready. Yeah.
And this is the way. Somebody can't take care of your transformation for you. The only way you can do it yourself is be willing to step into the fire, initiate that connection within yourself, and become the man that you're born to be. And so I really love that you share that, and you really stepped up onto it. To be honest, I was a bit disappointed back, not in you. I didn't know what was going on for you in Colombia, but I was like, oh man, I'd love Zuri to be on the stage. And I remember I asked you at 2 different events, and I was like, does this guy does he not like the event? Does he not like me? It's like, he's got so much wisdom to share. Maybe I could see more in you than what you could see in yourself. You had all your own stuff going on.
Yeah.
And, for you to come up and share on the stage, to go, man, like, this is my redemption. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So
yeah.
I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
so cool.
Likewise, man. It's a mutual feeling, and it's interesting to see where our mind goes. Like, you thought it was a you event problem. had nothing to do with it. I was dealing with my own stuff.
Yeah.
You know, my lack of being in a state or energetic state of like, maybe I was more of a student stage and season. I wasn't really wanting to step in, or this fear of, you know, looking dumb or whatever. And what's funny is I got thrown in the fire with an unprepared speech in front of like 5 times as many people. But dude, it worked out, you know, and it's cool to have that kind of self-trust. And maybe I wasn't feeling as self-trusting back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see the meaning that we make of it. And it was not you at all. It was 100% me.
I make up all sorts of funny. Well,
We all do.
as we all do,
Yeah,
right? Make
yeah,
up all
yeah.
sorts. I'm way more conscious of the meanings that I'm making up now.
Good.
And I kind of laugh at them and go, oh, well, that's it. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Whatever. I just take myself and the things that I'm doing and everything else a bit more lightly than what I used to. I get, one of the things I like about building a bigger audience, a bigger, live in person or on social media and having more influences, I'm starting to not necessarily get haters yet. I've had like 1 or 2, and I'm like, oh, I said to Louise, I'm like, oh yes, I got my first hater online. Awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But like starting to also like with Give It All and speakers that come and different things, and some people don't like the positioning, or some people don't like my style, or maybe I say the wrong thing because I'm quite raw, and when I'm raw and unprepared and just riff on different ideas, it won't always come out the best way. And I'll come and like, oh well, and people get insulted or upset about it. I'm like, look, I'm sorry. If I really upset you, I apologize for that. And also, we take it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
I like you. I like you as a person. I like what it is that we're doing. I didn't get quite that right. I should have said it this way. Maybe I need to work on the delivery of this part. But that's some of the whole point of the event. And also as a metaphor for life, that we're all just giving it a go. We're just
100%.
We're just showing up. We're doing the best that we can. And we're not always going to get it right. And the more that I embody that, the more I attract my people, the more that people go, I trust what it is that you're talking about. I trust you that you're not going to bullshit me. I think it's a really fun way to develop that, and I get to invite people along on the stage and give that a go as well, like you did.
You know what's cool about your event name, and I just thought of this as you were sharing that, it really does seem like you're giving it all, like during these events, and that's been the core intention for you. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, like reflecting how far it's come from Colombia, even though the venue wasn't as big, even though there wasn't as many people, even though the production might not be the same as what you have now, you were giving it.
Yeah.
You were really giving it a go. You were giving it your all. And you were on stage this time, maybe even a little bit more eloquent the last Thursday when I was there, but you were giving it all back then. And it's interesting how you kept giving, there's like this compound effect. So It is cool to see. I like that analogy of just, we're all just giving it a go. It's not perfect now. It's never going to be perfect. Even these like bigger name coaches in the space or entertainers or workshop holders, it probably never goes 100% according to plan, but they're just riffing with it and they're just throwing with the punches, So it is cool, man. I just want to encourage you on that. It's cool to see how far you've come with the event.
Thank you. It's one of those things that I hold myself and the things that I produce to a really high standard. Somebody asked me, actually, it was last week, asked me going like, what's your relationship with perfectionism? Because I can see that you hold really high standards, but if you hold yourself to really high standards, does that come out as perfectionism, or how do you navigate that? And I say both. I think both can happen simultaneously. I can have really high standards. I'm always aiming to achieve more, but then at the same time, I'm bringing a level of gratitude and appreciation for what it is that I'm creating now, and being okay with fucking it up or doing something that wasn't quite it, or at the end of each event or anything I do, I look and I'm like, yeah, I didn't quite do that quite to my standard, or I could have shown up better here, or I'm going to change that around next time. Or Louise will be like, what were you thinking there? You know better than that. I'm like, yeah, thank you for the feedback. I do know better, and still being okay with that.
I think that's the most important thing, is you don't let like perfectionism hold you back from at least taking really precise action.
Yeah.
A lot of people get stuck in analysis paralysis because they're thinking that, oh, it has to be done perfect or I'm not going to do it. But you're out here actually making it happen with the best intention, with these standards. And even if it's not perfect, it's getting better over time, and you're not stagnating, and you're actually taking action and not getting stuck in analysis paralysis. So that's really cool about what you're doing.
I have this belief, and I take this from goal setting as well, but it's a similar kind of analogy, is that I'll always be putting things almost that it's unachievable, because, the whole metaphor, or almost unachievable. So then it's realistic enough to at least shoot for it, but I'm never really expecting to hit it. because like if I hit 70% of the goal, that's way better than having the goal at whatever the 50% was and hitting it 100% and be like, oh, look, I'm so good. I achieved it. Like, where's the growth in that? Like, I would rather be missing the mark by about 30% because I'm trying really hard to hit it, but I'm missing it by 30% and having a relationship with myself that's okay. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, you showed up. You gave it all. You know, like you did the best that you could. And that's what I'm always really aiming towards. So every event, and that's why the event has grown and become as good as it's become and where we're taking it in the future is I'm always like, how is it that we can make it even better? Where can we grow? Where can we stretch ourselves? Where can I be a bit more vulnerable? Where can I roll the dice and go, actually find out like whether this will work? And there's lots of parts of it that I've tried and hasn't gone that well. I'm like, okay, whatever, let it go. Lighthearted, you know, you don't have to hold on to things that don't work.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's why a lot of these movies and blockbuster movies have these really outrageous plots where the task seems impossible, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to get through this together? But I really like the way that you put that, because if your goal is like almost unattainable, but there's like, you're saying there's a chance we can do it and you hit 70% of it versus something that's like, oh, okay, cool, this is a goal that's kind of exciting. And you hit 100% of it. It's like, okay, cool, you get a little dopamine.
Yeah.
But I feel like the journey on the much bigger goal and hitting a percentage of it is just way more exciting. It's like a little bit more daunting or scary of a adventure or mission to embark on. Yeah. And then that's where a lot of cool stories and experiences are going to happen from playing a bigger game.
Yeah.
And I'm getting inspired just hearing this analogy, because I'm like, okay, cool. We got to start stretching more. We got to start expanding more.
And this is appropriate for anyone, you know. So maybe, you know, someone that's just hearing this for the first time, it's about the stretch. It's not necessarily like, so where I'm stretching myself is not the same as where you're stretching yourself or the next person. It's just like against yourself. I think, you know, to grow your comfort zone, as we live in the comfort zone, it's important. If we're in discomfort all the time, your nervous system just wouldn't be able to handle it. You'd be on edge. So you live in the comfort zone, and then to create a bigger comfort zone, you need to step out of it into the discomfort. It's like going and sitting in an ice bath. It's really uncomfortable. And you're sitting there and go, fuck. And the first time you do it, you like do 6 seconds. And you're like,
you're freaking out.
You're freaking out. You're like, everything's going crazy. And that's okay. You get out. But the next time you go and do it, that 6 seconds is a little bit easier. So you go into the discomfort, and then you come back in the comfort. You're like, okay, I got it. The next time, 6 seconds turns into like 16 seconds. It wasn't just a little bit more. It was like double, because you're like, yeah, I've got this. And I think it's the same with anything that we're going after. It's like, just stretch yourself a little bit. I'm not even one to say go and like really do a lot, because you don't want to make it. I come from the perspective of making it fun, you know, making discomfort comfortable in a kind of way. If you go past the breaking point, you're like, you end up creating trauma for yourself, and you never want to do it again. You know, so do it in a way that's going to be a way that you can consistently create that discomfort, and it just grows over time. And then suddenly, you know, and you'll know this after a few years, a few months, few years, bit of practice, you're like, wow, I'm looking back on what used to be uncomfortable, and I don't even think about it. That's just who it is that I am.
Crazy, right?
Who it is that I've become.
Yeah. And the way that you put that was really cool. I think new standards and new tolerances for your nervous system.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of doing something that's a crazy goal and setting yourself up for failure, because you're not that kind of person to get there in the time frame that you think you're going to do. Like Tony Robbins says, we underestimate what we can do in 10 years and overestimate what we can do in a year.
Yeah.
Right. So we're trying to overstretch and all this stuff, but one, it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can make it more fun, a goal, and enjoy the process. So I've been pushing myself socially in social interactions, pushing boundaries in terms of like what's permissible, or, you know, just putting myself out there in social situations. And it's been really fruitful. Right. And every time that I go out and I meet somebody and I'm just like curious about them, my nervous system is like, okay, cool. You're good to be this level. And then I'm like, okay, cool. How can we push the needle up a little bit more? Or same thing with business or creating content. How do we raise the edge so that we're more comfortable expressing? Our body knows that it's going to be okay no matter what, because we got us. And how do we keep pushing that needle?
One of the things that I've been seeing you do recently, and I was just reflecting on it just now, but recently as well. One of the missed opportunities that single men have, and it's easy for me to say this now because I'm in a relationship, so, you know, easier from the outside. Missed opportunities is going and approaching more women regularly. And not even for necessarily to get something or whatever. It's just because it's uncomfortable for most guys because they don't do anywhere near enough of it. And it's kind of one of the things, I don't necessarily regret it. But like, I look at you, other guys that go and do it, and there's a pretty woman, and go and talk to her. And I'm like, oh man, it's easy for me to say, I wish I could do that. Because like, just that little, the butterflies and the nervousness are like, oh, what's going to happen or whatever. But it's one of the easiest ways to go and just seek discomfort. And maybe you get a girlfriend, maybe you get laid, maybe you get whatever. But it's just like, maybe you get more trust and confidence in yourself just for taking action on a small little step through seeking discomfort. Tell me about that, because this is something that you've been doing, right?
Yeah, I think it's really important. The whole cold approach concept used to terrify me. You know, like, you know, you see a girl who's gorgeous and she catches your attention, and then all the feelings come up, like the desire to approach, but you don't actually go out and do it. It kills self-trust, and it actually negatively reinforces a negative belief system, you know? So when you actually see it and you take action, not knowing how the interaction is going to go, not knowing if she's just going to completely throw a drink in your face, how could you come up and talk to me and say this and compliment me? You know, all the like stories that we make up. But if you go in with good energy, very rarely will the other person respond negatively. That's why I feel like I have a really good success rate going up and introducing myself to beautiful women and just connecting with them, because I'm also just seeing if like they're cool. Like if I'm going in with good energy and that's not reciprocated, I don't look at that like I'm the problem anymore. Like I'm like, oh, maybe she has something going on in her life. Like this is not the good time she's not feeling social, all those things. It's not a me problem. And I think before I would overanalyze and interpret that information as something like it's a me problem.
Yeah.
Like, but it's crazy. Like when you go in with good energy, you go in with compliment, and you're just being real. You're not kissing ass. You're not doing things that are like lowering your frame, but your frame is so high that like you're inviting people into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I really like that, the attitude of, and you could almost even just say that, go up and go, hey, I'm just coming over to see if you're cool.
Yeah, man. It's not what you say, it's the energy behind how you say it.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of cliche, but it's so true. And that's with everything. Like things are only as big of a deal as you believe it is. And if you treat big deal situations like they're not that big of a deal, this is kind of what we were talking about stoicism earlier. We make meaning on things that are way out of proportion than reality. So it's powerful.
It's a good one, man. It's a good one. I really admired that the other day when you're like, hang on, I just got to go and talk to this lady over here. I'm like, dude, do it. Go. So I love seeing you follow through. I know one of the other things that you speak about is identity shifting. I'd love to touch on that because it seems like your identity since we last connected has shifted a lot. You've obviously worked on that a lot. Where do you come from? What's the approach for identity shifting? Why is it important? What have you noticed?
Yeah, it's so interesting to see how life brought me full circle and how much more connected I am to the youngest version of myself that I can remember in like grade school, like when I was between the ages of like 8 and 12. I feel like I got disconnected from that young, joyful, energetic kid, playful, and I started getting succumbed by societal things like I have to show up this way, I can't express this. And it's so interesting. I've actually never really processed this, but as I'm talking about this, how connected I am to that younger version of me, like
Nice.
that inner child of Zuri. And I think at some point, I think this may or may not be relatable. I think we do get disconnected from that young version of us that was just curious and playful, or like whatever your personality type was at that age. And it's cool to see, like, I still have aspects and seasons of stoicism where I'm getting shit done and I'm focused on that and really prioritizing that. But it's interesting to see how much more enjoyable life is when I come with this like kid-like curiosity, but with the experience and wisdom of a man. You know, so I'm not trying to act boyish. I'm acting as a man that's like playing in the playground of life.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think when we're young, we're born with who it is that we are, right? And then growing up and our conditioning from what our parents fed back to us, or situations of where we felt like we were abandoned or deprived of love or whatever, whether it was real or perceived, that does something within us. We're hurt. We go through different traumas, different things that condition us, and then we go to school, and our teachers teach us stuff or tell us we've got to behave in certain ways. Or society and all this conditioning takes away from who it is that we're born in essence to be. And then we get to that age of into our 20s, if you're lucky, or you've got self-awareness and you've got the right role models, maybe 30s, 40s, 50s, some of the guys that I'm working with 55, 60, and they're like, oh, Daniel, like the biggest regret, no, not even regret, I think it's like their biggest processing point is going, oh man, I wish it was like, it's grief actually, grieving that they didn't discover this work years ago because they have less time to actually have lived the changes that they're now creating. But a lot of it is coming back to undoing some of that conditioning so we can just live back to the version of us that we're born to be, right? Like that, our innate personality, that boy-like or childlike joy and spontaneity and expression of self and everything. I think some of our best role models are probably the 5-year-old kids playing in the playground and watching them and going, wow, imagine if we could live that way, as you say, with the wisdom and the knowledge of being an adult and all the experience, but allowing us to come back to this. I think it's a beautiful process. How did you do that?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I could probably just riff on this for a long time and I'd like process it with you. But I think you have to kind of get disconnected from it to feel what it is like to be connected to, the younger version of yourself again.
Do you think most people are disconnected from it first?
It's hard to say, man. Like I only know my experience.
Yeah.
I would say societally that is a problem. Most people are disconnected from that younger that version of themselves that because of life, jobs we don't like, bad relationships, people with bad intentions, getting hurt, like all of those things more and more, like I think in my experience disconnected me from that inner child. And it's crazy. Like I did this exercise 2 years ago where I did a daily active play. And this is when I was building my solar business. And this is when I was stressed all the time. Not all the time, but I was stressed, and I incorporated this daily active play where I did things that made me come alive when I was younger. And that a lot of that things was sports. So I got really into paddle and I got really into basketball again. And I started playing video games again for a season, and just things that made me happy as a kid. I would just get lost in flow. And it's crazy how doing that for a couple of months, my business actually started going up and I was working less hours because my energy was different.
Yeah.
Sales calls were going better because I started feeling good and detached. It wasn't my only focus. I was enjoying my life outside of working hours, which made me enjoy my life during working hours. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. One of the modules in my flagship program, it's called the Wheel of Reconnect. The program's called Reconnect, and it's most similar to the Wheel of Life. It's a pretty fundamental I don't want to say basic, but a fundamental coaching framework structure. You got all the segments in life, and the reason why we start with that in the program I coach people through is life doesn't happen in so for an example, somebody come and go, oh Daniel, I really want your help with my success in business, for example. I'm like, okay, and I start looking at we get them to fill out their Wheel of Reconnect, Wheel of Life, and have a look at it. And often the business is low, other areas are high, but the lowest points are the ones that, business is okay. It's going fine, let's say. And I will say, the connection with intimate partner, with your friends, low, and like you don't have any interests or hobbies. You're feeling pretty disconnected from yourself, relationally, with others, and don't have any hobbies or interests. I'm like,
that's what kind of ingredients is that for an outcome?
Yeah, like
it's really good.
Into business. I'm like, okay, I know that you're here to be coached through business and to make more money. This is an accelerator program. Can you trust me enough that we're going to do something a little bit different here? And they go, sure, that's what I'm paying you for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we do a 180-degree turn rather than focusing more on what it is that you've been focusing on. Because if you've been focusing on that and you don't have the results, that's probably not the problem. We do a 180-degree turn and we focus on the thing that they've been avoiding. And usually it's a connection with self, it's a relationship, it's hobbies, it's interesting, that kind of thing. And they're like, so Daniel, you're telling me that we're gonna go on some dates and go and play some paddle or go and do the things, and it's gonna help my business. I'm like, I got a sense. Should we give it a go? And they're like, fuck it, okay, let's do it. And exactly what you described. I've seen this happen over and over and over and again for the last half decade. And this is just a general example. Somebody wants better relationships, and we go and help them, go and have just more fun in their lives, or, they or vice versa, whatever. Like there's 9 segments that we go across, but it's always what we're not focusing on is generally going to make the biggest impact on to what it is that we want to create.
So true.
Because life doesn't happen in itself. Every part of our life is leaning on each other. And so it's really interesting that you brought that back and you've experienced that. I really love that.
Yeah. Well, I guess what you're doing as well is identity shifting with the client, right? Like if they haven't been identifying as a winner or thriving in these other areas of life, like socially, physically, mentally, and emotionally, obviously, then that's going to have an impact on their business because their business requires almost all of those traits, So you're really bringing them back and helping them shift into the kind of person that has all of these things in tune. And sometimes more or less like other aspects of life are going to be out of whack, but it's just bringing it in. And then I just realized the more fun I have and I adopt and allow myself to have more fun, the more my state increases energetically, the more opportunities come my way, the more work or business opportunities, social opportunities. So that's what I try and use as the jet fuel or the fuel to help me get there.
Love that.
And then you just fine tune from there. And it's also, like you said, a lot more fun and enjoyable of a process than just grinding.
Yeah.
Grinding, we get bored, man. Like, what's the point of grinding 24/7 if you're not enjoying the fruits of your labor? You know, I think some people just get lost in the hustle and the grind, and then they lose. They wonder why they're miserable. You know what I mean?
You've inspired me. I'm going to go out and have more fun, especially playing more paddle. It's been something I've been talking about for ages. I kind of suck at it. I've only played a few times. Actually, we played together in Midian, right?
We did, right? Yeah.
So I haven't improved since then.
Well, speaking of fun, man, we got a good trip lined up this weekend with the big bikes. We're gonna go on that all-day tour, explore Bali. I was telling you how fired up I am before we jumped on here, but that's it's gonna be a good time, dude. I'm looking forward to doing that with you and the group.
We're gonna have to maybe create some. I know what we're gonna do is we're gonna create some B-roll content for the intro of this episode from that trip.
Game time.
Let's go and ride the big bikes. Now I forgot everything that I was talking about because now I'm thinking about motorbikes.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm excited about that too. But I will say just about the identity shift is like you have to be okay giving yourself the space to become the person that you're going to be. Because it's really the first time, if you're trying to do something big in your life, if it's your first time attempting to be this person who you don't have any physical evidence for, you're going to feel like an imposter. You have to give yourself space to process that and whatever kind of like negativity comes along that way. It's your first time trying to do something bigger. Give yourself the space to do that, and then watch how life will just present you with the opportunities to fulfill on it.
Yeah.
But the self-sabotage happens when we start freaking out. When we start freaking out, oh my gosh, it's too scary, and we want to go back to the old self. That's where self-sabotage has the opportunity to creep in.
Yeah. And also, or even extend on that, and I've noticed this within myself, but a lot of people I've worked with, is the expectation that just because they've defined it, like this version of themselves or the characteristics, attributes that they need to step into, that it should just be done already. Now that they've defined it, go and do it, and it doesn't work straight away, and then bring a whole lot of self-judgment and go, oh, fuck, it's not happening, it's not working, or like, I suck. And I think a really great, what's the word, like antidote for that is self-acknowledgements. So bringing forward what you said is realizing that it's going to take some time, but also that you're giving it a go. You're showing up to it. You acknowledge that you're demonstrating a new attribute that you're under-practiced in, or it hasn't been developed or hasn't been demonstrated to you as a child for you to develop it yet. And bringing that and acknowledging, and like a lot of people will say, oh, I've got nothing to acknowledge myself for today because I've been hustling and nothing's happening. I didn't do anything. And I'm like, well, how is it that you're showing up? How are you showing up in alignment to who it is that you're becoming? Most people, you haven't even had that conversation. But once you have that conversation, you're like, oh, yeah, okay. So like whether you won or you lost today, or, you had a great outcome or not such a great outcome, or whatever it is, if you're being intentional, and I think got all the way back to the start of the conversation, one of the criteria of like really developing masculinity and that a leadership trait is being intentional.
Yep.
Moving with intention, on purpose, with volition, and whether you're getting the results that you want or not yet, as long as you're showing up to those attributes and those characteristics, those energetic states, those attitudes, those beliefs, this identity that you're moving into, you can acknowledge yourself for that, and that's winning. And when you do that, fucking hell, it feels good. I feel
Dude.
like a man.
Yes.
Like I'm doing this. This is my inner warrior. This is me being the leader that I'm becoming.
And you're in motion.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the worst thing you can do is be critical on yourself and not do anything about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the recipe for failure.
How many
right?
people do that?
I did, myself included. I'm a victim of that before until you, I think it was Newton. I talked about this at one point, but I heard this quote like an object at rest is going to stay at rest until a force moves it.
Yeah.
So if you're forcing and you're doing this continuously, you're going to catch some motion. You're going to start surfing and riding those waves. But if you're just kind of sitting on the surfboard, you're not getting ready to actually paddle and catch any of those waves. They're just going to keep going over you and then going under you and going under you. And you're going to keep missing those opportunities. Something about the identity shift. I just lost my train of thought with that analogy, but I wanted to share about it. It'll come back to me.
We'll come back. Another analogy of what you just mentioned is like having to get out of the seats and into the game of life. You notice that, if you notice the people that are the biggest haters or critics, and the people that are noisiest and tearing other people down are the ones that are just sitting in the cheap seats.
100%.
They're not in the game of life. They're not creating the movement. They're not even willing to go and give the ball a kick, shoot for the goal, or basketball, get on the court, actually playing it. And I think your analogy around creating that movement is literally that. Getting out of the cheap seats, getting out of any seats and into the game. Because that's what we need to be doing.
Into the arena, man.
Yeah.
There was that Theodore Roosevelt quote in the beginning of Daring Greatly with Brene Brown.
Yeah.
I read that book when I was starting like the men's group journey. And it's like the man in the arena. Like it's so easy to criticize from the sidelines. And here's the thing. I love Instagram hate comments, not on my stuff, just like in general. Hey, I'm open to it as well. But I love seeing hate on Instagram comments because I think it's funny. But if you look at the people who are not just hating, because Instagram's like a whole like subculture of people. But if you look at the people who are genuinely hating and they're throwing shade, and then you click on their profile, they're typically not looking like the happiest people. It looks like they don't really have any success or motion going on in their life.
Yeah.
And they just don't seem like the kind of people that you'd want to hang around.
No.
And it's probably because they don't want to hang around themselves. They don't feel good. So they want to whatever's repressed and suppressed is going to come out. And I used to deal with that when I was drinking at college parties, man, or not even college, high school, is like drunk thoughts or sober thoughts or drunk words or actions. And I had a lot of like angst and anger, and I'd get in fights and stuff. The reason it would come out is because I was uninhibited, and that alcohol would help free flow whatever was going on in my internal state, which wasn't healthy. And then that would manifest as, me starting beef or me getting into tussles and stuff. And I don't regret any of that. It was part of my journey. But it is interesting looking back as 2020s in hindsight,
It brings me back to that whole phrase. I always get this mixed up. Perception is projection. Projection is perception. Perception is projection, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What you're perceiving is what you're projecting out in the world. And it's like the world and the reality that you live in is a mirror of your internal. And I think it takes a fair amount of self-awareness to understand that concept. For the people that are throwing hate and shade on others and whatever, they're not going to hear it. But I think when you're on the receiving end of it, and I know we've all heard this before, to go, you received a hate comment, it's nothing to do with you. It's just a total reflection of them. You get enough of it, it starts making a toll. But like one of the things that I've really noticed, and like I mentioned before, I get excited because it means that at least I'm reaching more people.
Yep.
But also compassion for them. I'm like, man, like somebody commented on one of my YouTube videos a few weeks ago. It was like, wow, this is so embarrassing. Your parents must be so disappointed in you. And like, it didn't even come close to feeling hurtful. I was like, I like the video. It's really great. Everyone that's watched it said, Daniel, this is super helpful. This is one person going, your parents must be embarrassed with you. It's like, it's the framework of literally how to have better relationships. And I'm like, oh man, for someone to go and watch that, man, how disconnected are you from any kind of sense of, I don't know, a great relationship, reality, connection, or whatever, to be thinking that my parents are embarrassed. But I don't think that's the thought at all. That's just the way it comes out on the front end.
What's so interesting about that is like how distorted is their viewpoint, their perspective, and their reality that their opinion or their framework of how they got that comment doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even register, you know? And then that's what makes it easy for you as well. And so like the fact that you got a hater is awesome. Like, I think if you're attracting haters, it means you're doing stuff right. It means you're actually taking action. You're actually doing things on a bigger level.
Well, you're triggering someone, right? And that's what every piece of content needs to do. It needs to trigger some kind of, not trigger in the typical sense, but trigger some kind of emotion within the person. Whether it's a sadness, whether it's a grief, whether it's an anger, whether it's something, because it's the trigger, the emotional trigger is what motivates. It's emotive. It makes you want to take action, do something, express. And that's what we need more of. In a world of numbness and disconnection, we need to trigger some kind of expression. So people do it in kind of more functional or more dysfunctional ways.
For sure.
There's different ways of doing it. But I think the baseline, anything that we're doing on, if you want to get, at least if you want to get exposure or you want to get attention, that's the baseline. You've got to create some kind of emotional trigger.
Absolutely. And I'm at the belief and stage of my life where I'm realizing that if you're liked by everyone, how are you truly loved, especially like by yourself?
Yeah.
Like how many people truly love you? Because like how real are you being? You know? And so like when I see the haters, I'm like, okay, cool. Like that means I'm being polarizing and I'm being true to myself and I'm being authentic. I'm not trying to be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If I was trying to be for everybody, I'd be doing way more stuff to be more likable and all these things. And that's just not what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to practice authenticity, self-expression, vocalizing, you know, how I actually see things. And if that pushes people away, cool. You're not my people.
There's something I wanted to share here. Fuck it, I'll do it. An example of that is, I don't know whether you know this. I'll do it for the camera. I've got a tattoo of a dick in my mouth.
Legend, bro. That's hilarious.
Most people don't do that. I've never shared this publicly, but here we are on the podcast. You know what's really funny? So the backstory is I want a toothbrush for when I'm traveling, and you know, like a tattoo of a toothbrush would be funny if I forgot my toothbrush. You know, just a funny joke. But my friend who's a tattoo artist, he said, it's not going to look good. It's going to like blend together, and it'll be shit. Let's do a dick instead. Okay, sure. And it was only supposed to last like, usually tattoos in the mouth should only last a few days, maybe 3 weeks or whatever. It was 3 years. It was 3 months, then 3 years, and now it's been like 13 years or something. It's been there. It's never gone away. But it's really funny that, you know, I've heard every dick in the mouth joke possible right, by this stage. And we laugh. Like every time I get the dick out of my mouth and show everyone. You know, like there's just so many funny puns. We're always having a laugh. But you'll be surprised how many people take like offense to the fact that I got a tattoo of a dick in my mouth. Not even a real dick, just a tattoo of a dick. Just the idea of a dick in my mouth, are offended by it. They take offense by that. And
it's not even in their mouth.
It's not even in their mouth. But like, I think just going off this point of going, you know, you don't need to like be friends with everyone. You don't need to impress everyone. Like, it's just such a funny thing. I'm like, somebody that takes offense by the fact that I got a tattoo of a dick in my mouth, I'm just like, you're probably not going to be someone that we're not going to be getting along.
Right.
You know, this is not someone I really want to invest attention into or time into, energy into, like seeing if we're going to be a great relationship together. I'm like, great, like that's okay. Judge me all you like. I don't give a fuck. Like, really don't. And that's my attitude now when it comes to like running Give It All. It's amazing. Like, you felt the energy there because there's a lot of people repelled by the way that we run the event, which is great. They're not in there, so the people that are in there, they're our favorite people. And it's like the people that I work with in my coaching programs, like the guys that I work with, I have so much admiration for the guys that I work with. Now, it hasn't always been that way. Like when I first got started in coaching, there's some people that I would have rather paid to leave.
Yeah.
I'll pay you to leave.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't that great on attracting the people that I wanted to hang out with. But now I just have so much admiration. Like half the time, I feel like they're teaching me more than I'm helping them a lot of the time. But we're in it together, right? With the demonstration for each other. I'm so thankful for that. The relationships, like the friends that I have, I'm like, oh man, like sometimes it brings me to tears and the brothers are just hugging. I'm like, man, I'm so fucking happy you're part of my life. Like, thank you, man. Thank you. With Louisa and like the relationship that we got, you know, the realness, and we don't argue. Like I went to a local lady here. Her name's Katut. She touches your foot and just tells you everything about your life.
Wow.
Incredible stuff. But one of the things that she touched my foot and she said, oh yeah, about the relationship. She's like, your relationship, you communicate really great. You got really great energy together. you're amazing. One of the challenges that you're going to have to continue to work through is the rebirthing of the energy. Rebirthing of energy. What does that mean? It's like our relationships are almost like seemingly too perfect. So we need more emotional expression with each other. And so one of the things that Louisa said was, I don't know, we had this little fight and she was upset at me for a couple of days. And then we came back, we resolved it and whatever. And then we come closer together. And she's like, oh, wow. And the next day she's like, I feel like I have so much more love for you now. I really love you. You don't get it. Maybe we need to fight more often so we can rebirth this energy. But the reason I share that is that it's amazing how that was as a result of me speaking my truth, being me, and what's important to me, setting a boundary that upset her, and she was upset at me, and we had to navigate that together. But like that's what inevitably brought us back together. Wow. And so the relationships of all kinds and the people that we hang out with is not about trying to be liked. It's not about being a people pleaser. It's not about being a caretaker. It's not about rescuing anyone else. It's coming back to who it is that we need to be and speaking the truth to the best of our ability, because I think facing our truth over and over and over again is the hardest work that we can be doing.
Absolutely.
Most challenging thing that we can do, and that's going to happen to the end of the time. But it's amazing when we start seeing the results and the feedback from others, right? And when we do this work.
Yeah, I mean, it takes balls to be able to show up like that in the relationship. And at the end of the day, it is only going to bring you guys more closer together, because it's like real meeting real instead of like two different, like, you know, you're saying this, but you don't really mean it, and vice versa. It's just like, it's not really as connected. So that makes a lot of sense why it would bring you guys even closer together. Yeah.
No, I love it. We got to wrap up. Before we do, this is Reconnect You. The whole podcast is about these conversations, how we can reconnect with ourselves, with each other, come close together, have healthier, more functional relationships from our perspective as men, for us and who it is that we are. I think it's also for women too, because women are really craving this level of intimacy from men, sense of leadership, masculinity, in the
Very
face of
much so.
everything that's happening in the world. And also as humanity as a whole, you know, we need functional masculinity for functional femininity, so we can come together, have that the polarizing division that we can come together. We need the polarization of it, so then we can have the attraction as well, and then to be that demonstration for the next generation of kids and men and children to come as well. This is humanity. Is there anything else that you'd love to add to this conversation that we haven't already covered that would further this conversation, this podcast, and give insight to the listeners before we wrap up?
What a great closing question. I feel like the topic of being in relationship with yourself is so important. And I just want to applaud you for you embarking on that, because that's been a huge part of the last 3 or 4 years with me, is like really getting in tune with myself and building my relationship with myself. Because you know how you can only love somebody as much as you can love yourself? Like, I firmly believe that, because my capacity to love other people was conditional, especially in romantic relationships, on how much I was loving myself. So in relationships or on my own, I would practice things with self-love. And that's doing things. It's not all, you know, taking baths or Epsom salts or sauna, although all those things are great.
Yeah.
It's more like showing up for yourself and increasing your self-worth through self-trust and knowing that I got my back. So the more you can enhance your relationship with yourself with real fruitful things, the more capacity you're going to have to love, to be present, and the more safe you're going to feel to take bigger risks. So if anybody's watching this, it's like, focus on your relationship with yourself. That's if you're already in a romantic relationship, it can be very fruitful down the road. And if you're not, it'll prepare you for when you're in that relationship. So you're not getting caught up in the other person's world or frame or any of that. You have a really good baseline, and that is also an invitation for them to come into your world, and you guys can meet on a similar level.
Yeah, love that. Fantastic advice. I brings me back to that the line on the inside of, we teach others how we want to be treated. If we're not, if we're disrespecting ourselves, we're neglecting ourselves, we're abandoning ourselves, we're giving up, you know, our own desires, you're teaching someone else to just go, well, you don't matter. If you're not demonstrating you matter, why the fuck should I demonstrate that you matter? I'm not going to teach you that way. And so I think there's times that we all do that, and when we come back to ourselves and go, all right, I matter, I'm going to take care of my own needs. I'm going to talk about my boundaries. I'm going to articulate to the best of my ability while I'm still developing what it is that I need and where it is that I finish and you start and how we're going to do this together and invite people into your world in that way. It's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's so good. Thank you, brother. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time. I feel like we could keep talking all afternoon.
This was fun, man. You're one of the guys I can just like riff with ideas. So
this is actually
cool.
a very different podcast than what I usually do. So I'm really appreciative of having this conversation and hearing all your insights and perspectives as well.
Embrace the difference, man. Love it.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.